Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. If you were a kid in the US during late 90s or early 2000s and you had access to a channel with the Fox Kids programming block, you certainly remember this poetry from the anime Digimon Digital Monsters. The lyrics as beautiful and important as any national anthem. But how did the Digimon, the little creatures from the digital world that we raised to fight and evolve, become the champions? And how did a line of virtual pets eventually spawn a massive franchise that spanned across anime, video games, trading cards, manga, and adorable plushies? To figure that out, we have to go back to the ancient times of 1996. Bandai developer Akimaita had just helped to invent the Tamagotchi. And while it wasn't the first pet-raising simulation game, this brand of virtual pet caught on like wildfire. You could carry them around. They were pleasant little blobs, and all you had to do was remember the basic needs from time to time. Though marketed mostly to teenage girls, by May 1997, Bandai had sold over 5 million units around the world, and the demand for them was so high that there was literally a Tamagotchi black market where the virtual pets could be sold for anywhere from 20 to 60 times the store price. Fun fact, I had one in Korea, and if I remember correctly, I lost it on the way back to school. And so Bandai, realizing that they should probably capitalize on this with more pocket-sized critters, did the next logical thing. They wondered what would happen if they could make the little monsters fight. The result was Digimon, short for Digital Monsters, usually credited to Akio Shihongo, which is actually a pseudonym that combines the name of a group of people who helped to create the series. It was released in June of 1997. Like the Tamagotchi, you had to birth it, take care of it, and if you didn't pay enough attention to it, it died. But unlike the Tamagotchi, you could also link up with a friend's Digimon and battle your monsters in an all-out, no-holds-barred, violent war of really little pixels going back and forth across a screen about this big. And by 2004, these tiny beasts had racked up 14 million units sold. Double fun fact, I also had this in Korea, and I remember dropping it in a rain drain the day after I got my Digimon to digivolve into Devimon. Rest in peace, Devimon. However, at this point, I feel like it's the appropriate time to strangle a rumor that has plagued the monster fighting community and elementary school playgrounds for decades. Which came first, Pokemon or Digimon? Well, to answer that, Pokemon did come first. The original game, Red and Green, were released for the Game Boy in Japan in February 1996. Over a year before the Digimon came out. But Digimon hit US soils first, with the virtual pet debuting in January 1998, about 8 months before Pokemon anime and games made their way to the TV screens and store shelves. So there, I guess that mystery is solved. More waves of Digimon virtual pets were released over the next few years, with the monster designs coming from Kenji Watanabe. Due to the popularity and influence of American comics in Japan at the time, Watanabe worked to transform the monsters from cute, roundish designs that were inspired by Tamagotchis to creatures that were more strong and cool. I mean, look at Devimon. What a cool mon. Also, they'd need as much monsters as possible. And by the end of the year, Digimon weren't just limited to little battle squares. They were poised to break out in just about every possible medium. 1997 saw the release of the first Digimon manga, Come On Digimon. That's the name of the manga. I'm not telling Digimon to come on. Come On Digimon is a one-shot for V-Jump magazine. The next year, one of Come On Digimon's authors, Hiroshi Izawa, would go on to create the manga series Digimon Adventure V-Tamer 01, and would introduce a version of a character that anime fans all know and love. The big-haired, goggles-wearing Taichi. But we'll get to the side of Digimon universe in a bit, because 1998 would also be the year that the first Digimon video game came out. Digital Monsters version S, Digital Tamers for the Sega Saturn. And it, much like the Sega Saturn, has been mostly forgotten, but some of that is probably due to the fact that a few months later, Bandai would launch a video game line that most fans associate with the series, Digimon Digimon World. Released in January 1999 in Japan and showing off our boy Metal Greymon front and center on the cover. This adventure RPG was a modest hit, selling only 250,000 copies by the next year. That is a pretty far cry from the deafening success that Pokemon was experiencing. But its mechanics and its outlandishly cool character designs also gave fans an alternative to whatever Professor Oak was having you do at the time. That said, Bandai was hopeful that Digimon World would be more widely appreciated in the US and helped to launch a massive marketing campaign for it, even offering limited edition Digimon game cards to the first 100,000 people who bought it. And 100,000 people would probably reasonably be into it. See, the children of the US were already well aware of what Digimon was, as a certain popular programming blog was showing its anime adaptation nearly every single day of the week. But let's backtrack for a second. Planning for the first Digimon Adventure series began in Japan by the summer of 1998, with Satoru Nishizono as the scriptwriter and Hiroyuki Kakudo as series director. It was produced by, and is still produced by, Toei, the famed cat animation studio behind such anime classics as Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Sailor Moon. The anime's release was a 1-2 punch though, as the day before the first episode premiered, a short animated film called Digimon Adventure would be released in theaters. It served as the prequel to the anime and features the anime main character Tai as a little kid that's trying not to get squashed by Greymon and Parrotmon. That one is directed by Mamoru Hosoda, who you might know from stuff like Summer Wars, One Piece, Baron Matsuri and the Secret Island, and other films. Digimon Adventures would set the standard for all Digimon series to come after it with its now familiar storyline. A group of kids, or Digidestined, in this case Tai, Matt, Sora, Joe, Mimi, Izzy, TK, and eventually Kari, find some Digimon partners for themselves, end up saving either the real world or the digital world or both. They fight a long string of nefarious foes, all while running into copious obstacles as they just try and figure out how to live their lives from there. It's a well-worn formula at this point, but it's super effective. The show was a success, but unlike Pokemon, it wouldn't take almost a year and a half for the anime version to make it to the US. Saban Entertainment, who had in the early 90s helped turn Japan's tokusatsu franchise Super Sentai into America's wildly popular Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Go Power Rangers! Was no stranger to churning out hits for the Fox network. And so they licensed Digimon Adventure, releasing it as Digimon Digital Monsters on August 14, 1999 on Fox Kids. Of course, accusations followed that it was just trying to ape Pokemon's success, but Fox Kids and Saban didn't give Pokemon had been a rating smash for Kids WB, and now Fox Kids had finally a contender to the throne. And they would end up airing it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Meanwhile, a Digimon card game would be released. But despite how enthusiastic the shouting children are in the commercial for it, it never really attained the cultural relevance that Pokemon had in the same area in the US. However, in Japan, it was hugely popular for a while, with over 500 hobby shops serving it as official stores. More virtual pets would be released as well, with the device eventually being modeled after the evolution supporting Digivice seen in the anime. And the video game series would continue to pump out titles for the PlayStation and even the very short-lived WonderSwan, the Japan exclusive handheld that you and I probably never got to get our hands on. The Digimon Adventure television series would lead to a direct continuation with Digimon Adventure 02, which featured a new crop of kids, the older returning cast from Adventure, and the nefarious Digimon Emperor, who of course has cool goggles and a cape to die for. It was also directed by Kakudo. But Digimon wasn't meant to last on the small screen forever though, as most Digimon tie-in films are short films, and so Fox decided it was time to cash in. But here's the thing, unlike Pokemon, the first movie, which was a full actual movie, Digimon the movie is cobbled together from multiple films, including the aforementioned Digimon Adventure short and another short film that Hosoda also directed, Our War Game. Remember how excited you were by the prospect of a Digimon film, only to be treated to shifting art styles and barely comprehensible story? Well, now you know. So, in October of 2000, American children and the baffled parents that bought the ticket got the beautiful mess that is Digimon, the movie, which is mostly remembered nowadays for its bizarrely timely soundtrack, which featured a pre-Shrek use of All Star by Smash Mouth, One Week by the Bare Naked Ladies, Less Than Jake, and the most oddly inescapable song of the late 90s and early 2000s, Fatboy Slim's The Rockefeller Skank. You know the song, the one that goes, right about now, come on soul brother, check it out now, come on soul brother, check it. Oh yeah, the movie. Despite the fact that it opened with an Angela Anaconda short, which is the most late 90s things ever, it did $16 million in the box office on a budget of $5 million. Not Pokemon numbers, but not a disaster either. I guess that's just the power of Fatboy Slim. But when Digimon Adventures 1 and 2 ended, and it came time to make an inevitable third series, the directing and writing team had no clue of where to take it, even after a few days of thinking about it. Enter new series writer Chiaki J. Konoka. Konoka is known for things like Birdie the Mighty, The Big O, Hellsing, and Serial Experiments Lain. Basically, he's the godfather of everything a lot of anime fans got pumped up about in the 90s to 2000s. And he's never been shy about taking a familiar genre and flipping it on its head. He was concerned that if the trends in the past series continued, the monster-like spirit of the Digimon would be diminished, and so he decided to rethink what it is to be a Digimon. What followed was Digimon Tamers, aka Season 3 of Digimon Digital Monsters, a series that many fans feel is best in the franchise. Darker than previous installments, Tamers take place in an entirely different world from the first two series, where in this world, Digimon is already a popular franchise and card game. Hint hint, buy Digimon cards, kids. Here, the standard Digivice used to aid in the evolution of Digimon of the last two series became a D-Power, a device that when you use a special card on it, it could do special things to your Digimon pals. With Tamers, Konoka conceived a return to the primary theme of the original virtual pet, in which a monster's main method of communication was battling, and only after that did it evolve into friendship. That gave Tamers an edge and also allowed it to go to places that the previous series didn't. Just to let you know, this series was sad, y'all. Beloved characters die, the kids frequently feel awful, and the growing feeling of we're all in this together that you often get from Adventure is largely absent. Super fun stuff. But while Digimon was experiencing a sort of creative renaissance, the once popular Fox Kids was on its last legs. Despite hosting 2 straight years of Digibowl, an event that pitted Digimon series against one another that was hosted by NFL broadcaster Terry Bradshaw, and putting Digimon in what seemed like every available time slot, Fox Kids would soon cancel its daily afternoon programming blocks and then, a bit later, sell its Saturday morning airspace to 4Kids Entertainment, who you may remember as the people that licensed the Pokemon anime. Disney would acquire the broadcasting rights to Digimon from Saban for a while in 2001, and Tamers, along with the next series, Digimon Frontier, would air on stations like ABC Family. In Frontier, the main kids could merge with the ancient spirits to become Digimon themselves, all in the quest to defeat the evil Lucemon, a former ruler of the Digimon world who is now just kind of a jerk. This concept is neat and really made for an underrated season. If that idea makes you think that Digimon needed a break after 5 years of relentless production in, well, every area of everything, you're not alone. Because after 2003's Frontier ended and the accompanying Digimon Frontier film bombed, it would be over 3 years before another series aired in Japan. And after Digimon World 3 came out in 2002, we wouldn't get another one of those until 2005. Digimon and what had become the 2 biggest parts of his empire took a much needed rest. And then, boom! At Jump Festa 2006, Toei announces Digimon Savers. And remember your little lizard bro Agumon, the lead Digimon from the original Adventures? He's returning as the main character. Meanwhile, if you wanted new games around the same time, you could shove Digimon World 4 into your PS2 or GameCube. And if you were a man of refined taste, you would soon be sinking weeks and months of your life into Digimon World DS. Digimon was back, baby. Well, sort of. See, that long break thing would become kind of the norm for Digimon anime series going forward. In 2006, we got Savers, or Digimon Data Squad in the US, which dealt with a government organization that handled problems between the human and digital worlds. The main character Marcus and his pals eventually have to, as is familiar by now, save both the digital and the real world from both people and Digimon who can't leave well enough alone. In 2010, we got Digimon Cross Wars, or Digimon Fusion in the US, where the monsters can be fused together to create more powerful ones. Here, the main kids and their eventual horde of Digimon are called the Fusion Fighters, and unlike the other series, Cross Wars is divided into 3 different seasons with 79 episodes among them. This is the longest Digimon series to date. In 2015 and 2016, we got the return of the OG Digidestined in the series of 6 Digimon Adventure movies. Here, the former 4th graders are now in high school and have to experience every bit of angst and the massive Digimon outbreaks that come with that. Super relatable stuff to everyone in high school, right? You know, we all had our angst and massive Digimon outbreaks. There was also Digimon Universe App Monsters, where the critters lurk in mobile apps and our heroes have to take on an evil artificial intelligence called Leviathan. Basically, it's the closest thing to a Black Mirror episode that Digimon ever got. And in 2020, we got a send-off to those aforementioned OG Digidestined with the film Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna, where the group of kids that you grew up with have to say goodbye to their digital partners. It's very, very sad. Then, also in 2020, there was a glorious reboot featuring new versions of the classic Digimon characters called Digimon Adventure. It follows a lot of the same beats as the original Digimon Adventure, but with enough twists that new and longtime fans should find something to enjoy in it. It also streams every week on Crunchyroll.com. Check it out. The last 5 years have also seen a return of the Digimon video games to international markets, with Digimon Cyber Sleuth being one of the most notable. A new installment of the card game recently made a resurgence in Japan, and those classic virtual pets, well, along with various new versions of those, they also did make some 20th anniversary editions, which is in the classic original design. All you gotta do is get your friends to buy one, and then you're set to crush them in battle. All of this might sound a little sad. I mean, we get a new Pokemon game roughly every 6 seconds. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company will announce a new puzzle game, a new app, and Pokemon Let's Go Brush Your Teeth. So Digimon is obviously the loser in this battle, right? Well, not really. Because despite appearing in the shadows of Pokemon by people trying to desperately to market at the same time, Digimon is very much its own thing. They do cover many of the same themes like, is it really good to be using these monsters that obviously feel emotion and pain to fight one another? And is it the best plan to send out a 10-year-old or a group of 10-year-olds out to solve the world's problems and save it? But there's one thing that Digimon has always offered that keeps it definitely separate from Pikachu. Remember back when I talked about Digimon pets dying if you don't take care of them? Well, that happens quite a bit in Digimon. Monsters lose in battle and while often reincarnated as eggs to begin a new life. It still means that life and death are on the line. And the characters you love from the adventure branch of the franchise, Tai, Matt, Izzy, Sora, Mimi, Joe, TK, and Kari, yeah, well, they all grow up and get their own lives and eventually have to grapple with the fact that adulthood doesn't really mesh well with having a 2-foot-tall monster pal that follows you around. I don't know why. So, if you're hesitant to dive into the new adventure series, don't look at it as a remake, maybe look at it as the egg that comes into being when the old timeline passes on. Digimon Reborn for a new life of TV series and video games and collectible cards and manga and virtual pets. And who knows, maybe you'll like it. I mean, they are the champions, after all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we all know the drill at this point, but I'll say it again. If you guys like this video, please subscribe and check out those little rectangles and circles that pop up at the end of the videos. And with all that, Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. I forgot how the bit go. All right, see you later. Bye-bye.